Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be using scraps of leftover wallpaper along with resins and a mould from Let's Resin to create a beautiful resin tray which blends in perfectly with my newly decorated craft room. And when I finish that, I'm going to give you a walk around my craft room so you can have a little nosy and see how my new craft room looks, because I know I love to see other people's craft rooms. So if all that sounds good, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Here's the tray mould I'm using today. It's from Let's Resin and I've had it a long time. You can probably tell by the colour of it that I've had it a long time. Now, you might be wondering, why have I just turned it over? Well, I've decided to make some feet to go under the tray, just to make it a little bit different. I do like to try out different ideas, and so I thought I could use 4 of the squares from the support grid on the back of the mould. I brushed the silicone with some gold pigment powder, but it didn't actually work very well. It wasn't clinging to the silicone because it's a very old mould and because the back of the mould is a more dull silicone, not shiny at all, and it does cling better to shiny silicone. But I was just having a go. You don't know until you try, do you? I actually ended up covering the finished squares using my gold chrome marker. So when I'd finished adding way more pigment than I needed to, I got a bit carried away with my little shaker. I mixed up some of Let's Resin's black epoxy to fill in those 4 squares. I did make up a little bit too much and ended up pouring more squares, so I had some spares just in case. So once they were cured, you can see I took them out and the corners just didn't cover properly. And so I took my chrome marker from Let's Resin and used it to paint over the sides. And it was a very good match actually. It looked exactly the same shade of gold as the pigment powder that I'd used. Okay, so the feet are ready and they can wait till the end now. Let's get on with the tray. Because I'm going to be using paper in my tray, I needed a template. So here you can see the template I made that fits exactly on the inside of the tray. So in my craft room, I have 2 different wallpapers and I'm going to use both of those wallpapers in my tray. This is the textured one that I just have on the chimney breast, which I really like. And then this is the patterned one that I have just on one wall and I absolutely love it. And I've got loads of offcuts from when I put the wallpaper up. So I was having a look at it to see which bits that I wanted to use, which birds I like best for the tray, which leaves I liked. And yeah, I was just selecting the little bits that I wanted and then I cut them all out, and I'm going to save you having to watch me cut out all those bits. You really don't need to see it. But here I have the rectangle that I've just drawn around the template, and this is going to be my background. It's the woven effect wallpaper. So the template gives me the maximum size for the inside of the tray. But I don't want my paper to be the maximum size because I'm going to laminate it and I need a space around the edge for the laminate to seal around the edge rather than sealing directly to the paper and then being cut. That way the resin won't get in because it will have a seal around the edge. So I'm just using the guide on my ruler to cut off the same amount all the way around the edge of my background paper. So once I had my background piece, I was able to select all the other bits I wanted to cut out to fit onto that background piece. So I cut out lots of leaves and my favourite bird and then just arranged them until everything looked just right before gluing them on. And to glue them on, I just used PVA glue and a sponge applicator. Once everything was glued on, I just sandwiched it between two pieces of acetate or transparency film, whatever you want to call it, and gave it a really good rub to smooth everything down. And then I left it to dry until the next day because it was actually taking a long time to dry, and I wanted to be sure that it was completely dry before sealing it into the laminate. While that was drying, it was time to prepare my mould, and I decided to brush the mould with some of the chameleon powders from Let's Resin. My favourite colour for this anyway was the olive. I thought that would work really well, and as you can see, it looks very whitish but with an olive overtone when you move it in the light. But you will see when this is finished and demoulded, it's very different to how it looks at the moment. So I'm just brushing it all on very thoroughly, giving it a really good burnish with the brush as well to make sure it's really in there nice and shiny. And once that was done, I poured in Let's Resin's black epoxy once more. The next day, once it was cured, it was time to take it out of the mould and have a look. And this is when you will see how that chameleon powder is very, very different with the black behind it. So you will see that obviously I didn't cover the inside very much, but it doesn't matter. I knew that I didn't need to thoroughly cover the mould on the inside where the paper was going to go. So that's why that's a bit messy. And here I'm just checking that the template fits and my paper insert fits. So next it was time to laminate my picture. I made sure it was right in the middle of the laminating pouch so I had plenty of space around the edges, and I put it through the machine. Now, if any of you are new to this technique and are wondering why I'm doing this, it's because when you put paper directly into resin, the resin darkens the paper. So it's something that you can do, but the picture does kind of get darker, and I didn't want that. I wanted it to keep light and bright and as original as it looks on the wall. I want this to match with the wallpaper on the wall. I don't want it to look darker, and so that's why I'm making sure it's completely sealed. If you don't have a laminator, you can use sticky back plastic on both sides, or you can paint it with Mod Podge, or you can spray varnish it to seal it, but make sure you do about 3 sprays of spray varnish. So once that was done, it was time to draw around the template, but I wanted to make sure it was in exactly the right position so I had a nice even border around the edge of my picture. So I'm just holding the laminate over the template and marking the edges a little bit, so when I turn it over to draw around the template, I will know that it's in the right position. So after I turned it over and lined it up with those dots, I used a couple of pieces of tape just to make sure it stayed in position. Then I drew around it, took the template off and cut it out. Next, it was time to stick it to the inside of the tray, and I decided to use double-sided tape for that, simply because I didn't want to have to wait for any other kind of glue to dry. I thought this sounded like the best idea for me, and so I completely covered it with tape. Here you can see that I'm going around the edges first rather than just doing multiple lines of tape all the way across. And that was because you're going to be able to see through the border of the, where it's laminated with that clear border. And I didn't want lots and lots of join lines where there were rows and rows of tape. So I decided to go around the edges and then fill it in the middle. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way my mind was working on this, and it worked. So next, after trimming off the excess tape around the edges and peeling off the backing strips, I just placed it in position and gave it a good rub to make sure it was completely stuck. So next it was time to protect it by coating it with resin. I'm using Let's Resin's tabletop resin, which is designed for coating. And before that, I'm giving it a spray with isopropyl alcohol just to make sure to get rid of any oily fingerprints that I might have left on there, because the epoxy wouldn't want to stick to those. So next I just measured out and mixed up my epoxy and poured it on. I didn't want to do more than necessary, so I just added a little bit at a time and moved it around until the surface was covered. And the reason I'm using this particular epoxy is because it's very hard wearing. It's designed to go on tabletops, and so it's good if it's going to be knocked and bumped quite a lot. And yeah, I just thought it would protect it well. You don't need to use that. You can use regular epoxy. But if you've got it, use it, because I think it's the best one for the job. And so I had it and I used it. So the next day it was cured and all ready, and I think it looks really pretty, and I think it will go really well with the wallpaper. We'll have a look in a minute. But yeah, look at that finish. Isn't it beautiful? You get a really nice finish with Let's Resin's tabletop resin. And yeah, so it's time for the feet anyway. Let's glue the feet on. I don't know if you can see, but I've put some marks on the back there where I want the feet to be positioned. So then all I need to worry about is getting the glue on and sticking them down. I know exactly where to put them. I repeated that for all 4 feet, and I will show you it in position in my craft room very shortly. So let's have a little look around, because I did promise, didn't I? So my craft room is on the side of my dining room. It used to be the living room, or some of you might call it the lounge. And yeah, I've just finished completely redecorating it, putting up the wallpaper, painting it, putting up picture rails, all of that. I did all that myself. I built the shelves there, look. And so I've got loads of storage on those shelves in the baskets, storage on my table. And yeah, I think it looks nice. I wanted it to be a place that felt nice and wasn't too packed. It's pretty packed, but not totally packed. And that fire in there is going to go. It's hardwired in, so I need to get someone to take it out for me, and I'll have shelves in there eventually. And there, look, on the back of the table, I've got some cupboards. So more storage, and there I've got a couple of chairs, so if someone comes to see me, we can still sit down. I haven't totally lost the use of it as a living room. And of course we have Honey there. And yeah, and my newest toy, my knitting machine. I've been making some hats and scarves. And more storage. These boxes are from IKEA, and they're just the right size for the shelving. Well, I say that. I bought the baskets before I put the shelving up, so the shelving was made to fit the baskets. Honey's looking very sorry for herself. She's thinking, why isn't anyone playing with me? And there's my moulds and shapes moulds, and I've got my teddy that my best friend made for me, and some more storage. All kinds of things all over the place. So yeah, it's quite crowded, but at the same time it feels really nice. And there's my tray. You'll see that in a minute. And some more storage for my pigments, which I made in a video, probably a couple of years ago, but I still use it. It's really useful. And can't remember what I've told you about. So I've got more storage on my desk. We always need storage, and it's never quite enough, is it? And you might be thinking, is that all your stuff in that room? And actually, no, it's not. That was the reason why I moved rooms. The room I had before wasn't really big enough for all of my stuff, and I needed a bigger space. So I came down into the living room. My husband got my old craft room as his man cave, and I got the little box room that he used to have as his man cave upstairs. And so in that little box room, I've got loads of extra storage for the stuff I don't use much. Anyway, look, here it is in position. And yeah, I think the feet work okay, although one of them went crooked after I left it. I don't know how, because I got them all straight. And once the glue had dried, I came back to it and one of the feet was crooked. But I like it with the feet on. So yeah, that's a little look around my craft room. And Honey's still there, feeling a little bit sorry for herself. I don't know why, she's just got a way of looking like she's in a mood. She probably isn't. She's probably just chilling out, but yeah, she looks like she's in a bit of a mood, doesn't she? Well, I think I've shown you everything now. I hope you've enjoyed having a look around my craft room. It's always good to have a little nosy around someone else's craft room, isn't it? And maybe get some ideas. And I hope you enjoyed watching me use up my leftover scraps of wallpaper to make my tray. I will leave links in the video description for all the products I used. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to. And I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching and bye for now.